Hello, and welcome to the Emerging Consciousness Global Online Festival, a kaleidoscope of voices and perspectives on awakening. Here we are gathering with leading transformative coaches, visionary artists, cultural creatives, and an eclectic mix of wisdom keepers, blended with colorful new voices to create a catalyzing space where curious people come for fearless and experiential learning. Thank you for being a part of this transpersonal movement to liberate minds, supercharge consciousness, and activate the farthest reaches of human potential so that we may co-create a more evolved and peaceful world. I'm Tami Mensh, transformative life and spiritual business coach, founder of the Kaleidoscope Lounge and Coaching, and creator and host of this event. I serve people on a journey to fullness of expression, joy, authenticity, and deep wisdom. Those brave souls who sense that change is imminent and who long to connect with that which makes them feel more fully alive and the gifts that they were born to bring into the world. And today, I am thrilled to be speaking with Neale Walsch, author of The Conversation with God books, here to tell us about his new book, The God Solution. Welcome, Neale. How are you today?
Well, thank you, Tammy. I'm very fine, and I hope you are as well. I'm enjoying my life at this point, and very happy to be here with you.
I'm really happy to have you here too. I read Conversations with God in 1995 and have had the pleasure of reading your new book that was recently published. And so I'm excited to talk to you about so much important, profound wisdom that has come through you that you're here to share with us. Maybe I'll get started with telling people a little bit about you, a little background. Neale Donald Walsch has written 39 books on contemporary spirituality and its application in everyday life. And the Conversations with God 9-book series has been on the bestseller list, was on the bestseller list for 2.5 years and translated into 37 languages. And now the latest book, The God Solution, it was published in 2020, and it invites humanity to embrace a new global ethic based on a refined and clarified definition of God. And I don't want to say too much because I would love to hear it in your own words. And so to begin, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Well, thank you, Tammy. You pretty much summed it up. I was leading a pretty normal life until around 25 years ago. But I had a lot of things that weren't working for me. I didn't quite understand why life had to be the way it was. For me, a constant struggle, one challenge after the other. I had a good life. I've had a good life. I don't want to complain about it. But it seemed to be there was always a mountain to climb, always something that wasn't quite the way I wished it would be. And I was making way too many mistakes, frankly, in my own behavior, in my own life. And I thought, gosh, it should be easier than this. So, and then I wound up living on the sidewalk, on the street. I wound up being what is popularly called a street person. Not for a couple of bad weeks or a couple of tough months, but for an entire year of my life. I was out there on the sidewalk, living on the outside with no place to go, no way to get under roof, no way to get out of the weather, for 2 weeks shy of 1 year. And during that time, and that happened, by the way, because I had an automobile accident in which I broke my neck. And it was not my fault, the accident. The police agreed, the insurance company agreed, everybody agreed, even the other driver agreed that it was his mistake. He simply turned in front of me when he should not have. But the problem with it was that I broke my neck. It snapped my neck just that fast. And I had a 3/4 inch avulsion fracture of the 7th cervical vertebrae posteriorly. Now, when we talk about a 3/4 inch fracture, we're not talking about a hairline fracture in your neck. We're talking about a break in your neck that big enough to put a pencil through. And so I was very, very lucky. They told me in the hospital to even be alive and to be not paralyzed. But it took me almost 2.5 years to recover any kind of real range of motion in my neck. And for the first 18 months of those 2.5 years, I had to wear what's known as a Philadelphia collar. That's a therapeutic device that holds your head up because the doctor said, imagine a basketball being held on the tip of a pin. That's what's happening right now because your head has no support whatsoever. So do not take this collar off at any time, not even to sleep. You wear 24 hours a day in the shower, in bed. You never take this collar off. So for 18 months, I wore that Philadelphia collar. Now, I've told you that little backstory so that you would understand where I finally got to at the age of, well, I was about 49 years old, and sat down one day and I wrote a very angry letter to God. What do you want from me? What? Come on, man. Just what do you want from me? I'm trying to obey the rules. Okay, I've broken a few, but I mean, really, no big bad things. I didn't treat everyone as well as I wish I had, and I had some problems with the ladies along the way. Fair enough, but really? I mean, really, is this all there is? What's the point of all this? Obviously, there's something I don't understand here. Please just. So I wrote a very angry letter to God. I happened to be sitting on my couch and there was a yellow legal pad in front of me, and I wrote down all those questions. I actually wrote an angry letter to God. What does it take to make life work? And I began to receive answers. I felt like I heard a voice, an actual voice in the room over my right shoulder, which very quickly seemed to be more like inside of my mind, but it was like a voiceless voice. I can't even describe it as a male voice or a female voice or an old voice or a young voice. It was kind of like the voice of your own thoughts, what I call a voiceless voice. But it was saying to me, do you really want answers to all of these questions? Or are you just venting? And I remember thinking, sitting there, hey, if you got answers, I'd love to know what they are. And I began receiving answers to every question I had ever asked. And I kept a copy. I wrote down the answers that I was receiving, and then I would ask another question, and I began keeping a written record of my questions and the answers that I was hearing. And that went on for a full year of my life. And at one point in what I began to call my dialogue, at one point in this experience, which I considered, by the way, a very personal, sacred, individual experience, never occurred to me in a million years that anyone would ever be privy to what I was experiencing. I thought it was like journaling, like writing in my own journal or in my own diary. It never occurred to me that someone else would see this. But at one point in the dialogue, I was told, you will make of this one day a book, and it will be accessed by many people. And I thought, now I gotcha, because that's something that can be proven. Everything else was just conceptual in nature, wonderful information, but basically concepts, ideas, thoughts. Could be or it could not be, who could tell? But here was a statement of fact. This will one day become a book was a statement of fact. And I thought to myself, well, we'll see about that. That was going to be my way of measuring whether what I was experiencing had any validity at all. So I did. I sent my notes, my handwritten notes to a stenographer who typed them out. And then we sent them to a publisher to see if there would be any interest in publishing this. I realized no one is going to publish a book. I mean, I could just see the publisher sitting in his office. Hey, guys, stop the presses. We got a book here from a guy who says he's talking to God. It's not going to happen. Nobody's going to publish a book like that. But in fact, there was a publisher, the first publisher I sent it to, who did agree to publish it. And I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting, I'm just telling you the truth. It wound up selling multi-millions of copies, being translated, as you mentioned, in 37 languages, being sold around the world. And suddenly I realized, oh my gosh, something really extraordinary has happened here. And I realized as well that these messages were never meant for me alone, but that they were meant for the world entire. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Since then, I've produced several other books, 38 other books to be exact, including the most recent book called The God Solution, which I really see as my final book. The last full-length book I'm going to write. I may write an article here or there for a magazine or a small little pamphlet, but that's the last full-length book that I'm going to write because it's really the culmination, the pinnacle point of all the other writing that I've been given to share. So thanks for asking the question. And to complete my little story, I'm 77 years old. I've been married 7 times. I didn't say I had 7 girlfriends or 7 relationships. I've had 7 actual marriages. I'm not bragging about that. I'm not boasting. It's just give you an example of the mistakes that I've made in my life and what I didn't really understand. I didn't even understand what love was, much less anything about God. So I wound up, marrying one person after the other, just trying to get a handle on this whole human experience. I have 9 children and 5 grandchildren. And as I said, I'm 77 at this point. So that's my story. And that's why I'm here with you, because I made a promise to myself that if anyone gave me an opportunity to share what I've come to understand in the Conversations with God dialogue, I would do that.
Wow, quite a journey that has brought you here. And, I would love to know, like, what was your biggest profound thing that learning or understanding that came through you during the conversations with God writings that you were doing? What was like the biggest aha for you that you didn't know before that helped you to move on?
That my life had nothing to do with me. I asked God, okay, what is it that I don't understand? Clearly, there's something I'm not getting here. Can you put it in a couple of sentences? Can you reduce it down? God said, I can give it to you in one sentence. Your life has nothing to do with you. I said, what? Of course it does. And the answer I got was, well, no, not in the strictest sense, no. Your life is not about you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. But the way in which you touch others' lives will in fact impact your own life. So in that extended kind of a sense, your life is about you, but it's not about you in the first instance. It's about everyone whose life you touch. But that's what allows you to complete the agenda of your soul. See, what I didn't understand, Tami, was what I was doing here. Why am I here? What are we all here for? What's the point of all this? I don't get it. Why are we here on earth? If I'm supposed to be a spiritual being, and I did believe that I was a spiritual being, I was raised in a religious household as a child. And so I thought, okay, I'm a spiritual entity, fair enough. I mean, I'm trying to say, I believe that I had a thing called a soul, not just a body, not just a mind, but I had a body and a mind and a third element of me that I called my soul, or if you please, my spirit, body, mind, and spirit. So I thought, okay, if I really am a spiritual entity, then what am I doing here? What in the world is the point of this?
That's the big question.
I know, and no one would tell me. I mean, I went to a Catholic parochial school. No priest had an answer for that question. I went to church every Sunday. No service, no mass brought me the answer to that question. I took courses, in comparative religion, and none of the other religions could give me a definitive answer to that question. Your purpose is to get back to heaven. I was told that, but well, if my purpose is to get back to heaven, why did I ever leave? Well, why did God send me away? I don't understand. Why was I? Oh, I hear. I was cast out of heaven. All the souls were cast out of heaven. And now our job is to somehow get back and avoid going to hell before we get a chance to go back to heaven. That's the story. that most of the world's major religions tell us. And I believe, at some level, I was creating a hell on earth in my own life. And I was certainly creating some very unhappy times for a lot of people around me, including, I'm sorry to say, the ladies in my life, all of whom were wonderful, wonderful human beings. And I'm sure sorry for the day they ever met me, because I just complicated their lives and caused a lot of hurt. But I finally, at least at the age of 50, got clear. Oh, I see. There's a thing called the agenda of the soul. And the agenda of the soul, in my understanding, has nothing to do with what I'm doing. It's not about how much money I'm making, what my career is. It's not about what I'm doing on the planet in the specific sense. It's not about whether I achieve success or any of that. The agenda of the soul is to announce and declare, to express and fulfill in every golden moment of now, the next grandest version of the greatest vision I ever held about who I am. Or to put it in simple terms, to demonstrate my true identity. I was told in conversations with God that all of us are individuations of divinity, not God in total, any more than a wave is the ocean in total. But a wave is an arising of the ocean. It's not different from the ocean. It's not other than the ocean. It's simply an individuation of the ocean arising in its own individual, powerful, and beautiful form. And when its individual expression is complete, it recedes back into the ocean. A wonderful metaphor and for who I am. So I'm not saying that I am God in totality, but I am saying that I and you and every other sentient being in the cosmos are individuations of that sacred energy that we call, or that some of us call, God, Allah, Brahman, Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever word it feels comfortable for us to use to refer to that ineffable essence that is the divine. So I realized then that, wow, I've come here to physicality, to the earth. This answered the quintessential question for me. Why am I here? Oh, to experience my true identity, because only in the realm of relativity, where things existed relative to other things, where there was big and small, up and down, left and right, now and then, here and there, before and after, good and yes, evil, black and white, male and female, created he them. Only in this relative experience, in this relative environment, could I really express and understand myself to be experientially that which is divine. Because I couldn't know divinity without knowing what we would define as not divine. I couldn't know good without knowing evil. I couldn't know up without knowing down. I couldn't know left without knowing right. So it fell to me to make the best of this opportunity. So I placed myself in this contextual field that we call life in the physical in order to experience my true identity. And why do I want to do that? Because it's part of the endless, eternal process that we call the evolution of the soul. It's about evolution. And the soul is evolving eternally. So I've come to understand that, Tami, I will live forever. You and I and all of us are divine entities that have lived forever and that will continue to live forever and ever, and even forevermore. Each moment of now providing us with an opportunity to express and experience our true identity, which in one word is divinity. And how would I define divinity? Because that's a big word. It's only one word, but it's a huge word. I would define divinity as pure love. So I get to experience myself as pure love in every golden moment of now. And you know what? Since I've come to that awareness, everything in my life has changed.
Tell me about that.
Well, my experience of life has become a joyful expression. I've met and found a way to hold on to, thank you very much, the love of my life. I found the so-called career or job that I adore doing, which I'm doing right now. My job is to share this message with as many people as possible, as fast as I can. I found an expression of myself in other ways as well. I've recreated my relationships with my children, and I've moved through life in a whole different way since I've come to understand what I'm doing here. You know, I got real clear about something a few years ago. Most people, myself included, so I don't, and this is not an insult, I'm just observing myself along with the rest of humanity. Most people have no idea what they're doing here. It's not surprising that the world is in kind of a mess because we've got 8 billion people who have no idea what the hell they're doing here. What am I doing here? What is the point of all this? So they're making the best of it. But our purpose in being here was not just to somehow do the best we can under terrible circumstances and conditions that we ourselves have created. That's not the point of life. There's a much larger purpose in life. And so since I've discovered that purpose, everything in my life has changed. And I have very few moments when I find myself living in unhappiness or lack or suffering or sadness or anger. And that's what's changed in my life. I'm living finally the life of my dreams. It's taken me over a half century to get there, but yeah, better late than never. Or as my father used to say, my wonderful father used to say, so old, so soon, so smart, so late.
That's great. That's great. And that is, you know, as a transformative life coach, that's my clients come to me and they're like, how do I find my true identity? How do I know my life's purpose? How do I know it when
Well,
I find it?
Tami, the problem is that most people, when they're looking for their life's purpose, they're really looking for a career, or if not a career, at least something they can do. They think that their life's purpose is about what I use a word that I've coined, doingness, my doingness. What am I doing with my body and my mind in the days of my life? But what I was told in conversations with God is that life really has nothing to do with what you're doing in the direct sense. What you're doing will be a reflection of what your life is about, but it's not the end purpose. It's not the primary reason that you're here. So we're not human doings, we're human beings. And we've come here to be something, to achieve a state of what I call beingness, to achieve, not just to achieve a state of beingness, but to experience it, to express it. And to, again, to put it in simple language, to express pure love. So I have a question that I've come to ask myself. It's part of the new message in the book, The God Solution. Because I asked God, what is the solution? We have a dilemma here. You know what? Let me set this up in a perfect way so people can understand why I'm bringing this up. We have a God dilemma on the planet. I often ask the question, if there really is a God, if there really is a higher power, a divine being, why in fact is the world the way it is? Why is it such a mess? And why has it always been such a mess? Why doesn't God step in and just solve it all? Well, I don't understand. What's the point of having a God if we're going to experience life on earth the way we're experiencing it? Let that be our question for the day. I call this the God dilemma. There are 4,300 known religions on the earth. I don't mean 4,300 belief systems, vague. I mean actual religions, organized religions. 4,300 of them. Google it, you'll find out. 4,300 religions. But with all those religions on the earth, not you can't get 6 or 8 of them in the room together to agree on the simplest ideas about who and what God is, what God wants, what God requires, what God will do if you don't give God what God requires. We can't get agreement on that. That is, we can't form a single spiritual ethic upon which all the religions of the world agree. Well, so we have a God dilemma. And so I wind up asking the question in the book, which I was invited to write, called The God Solution. The God Solution asks the question, is it possible that the reason that we have this messy world that we have is not because there's no God, but because we have not learned how to utilize the higher power that we say exists? Interestingly enough, anthropological surveys have shown that 8 out of 10 people worldwide believe in some sort of higher power. We may give it all different names, we may define it in different ways, but 8 out of 10 people believe there is some kind of higher power out there. We just don't know how to use it. We haven't given ourselves permission to explore together. Might there be a unified way to utilize the higher power? And if we ever did utilize that higher power by creating a single ethic, a measuring stick, if you please, that could tell us whether or not we're on the path, on the right track to divinity. If we could find a single ethic, a single statement, then maybe all of us could agree on how to get from where we are to where we want to be. So what the God Solution offers is a clear statement of that single ethic. Let's say that God is not a man in the sky, with white hair and a white beard, who often wears a striped shirt and looks a little bit like me. But let's just pretend, just for the sake of discussion, that God is not some man sitting on a cloud somewhere, that God may not even have a penis or a vagina or any particular biological parts. Maybe God is an entity that we would call pure energy, the essential essence. Wouldn't it be interesting if God was a feeling, or at least the closest we can come to human language to defining God is a feeling that I call pure love? Not just love, but pure love. Because a lot of people would agree, by the way, most religions agree God is love. But when you say, what about pure love? What's the difference between pure love and just simple love? Pure love requests, needs, demands nothing in return. We have no commandments we have to follow. We do not have to worry about being sent to everlasting damnation because we belong to the wrong religion. Can you imagine a religion that teaches that if you don't belong to that particular religion, you're going to hell? That of all the other religions on the earth, even though you're yearning to know God, your desire to express God's highest ideas, even though you want to be as loving as you can, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You could be the kindest person, the most compassionate person, the nicest person, the most generous person. You could, the most forgiving person. Doesn't matter. You're going to hell because you belong to the wrong religion. Not only you belong to the wrong religion, but even if you belong to the right religion. I was told as a child that because I was a Roman Catholic, that I was in the right religion. That's the right religion. I was a Catholic and I was a Christian. But even though I belonged to the right religion, I was told when I was 9 years old, if you miss Mass on Sunday, you must go to Mass every Sunday and every holy day of obligation. It's called a holy day of obligation. And if you miss Mass on Sunday, without a good excuse, I mean, if you're caring for an aging parent or if you have to go to work, fair enough. But if you don't have a good excuse and you miss Mass, you're going to hell. No, I'm not making this up. Check it out. Check it out. This is theology. If you miss Mass on Sunday, God is going to send you to hell. Do you think that didn't send me to the confessional when I was 9 years old? Because one Sunday I went and played baseball. I told my parents, yeah, I'm going to Mass. And I lied. I told a 9-year-old lie. And I turned left at the corner and I went to the playground where all the other kids who were not Catholic were playing baseball. And I was out there playing baseball. And then the priest tells us, as it happened in catechism class the next morning, Monday morning, if you miss Mass, by the way, without a good excuse, you got to go to confession and confess your sins, because if you die with that sin on your soul, you will be sent to damnation, or at least to purgatory. What is purgatory? I said to the priest, what is purgatory? God said, well, the priest said, well, it's like hell, only it's not forever. I've had a couple of marriages like that, actually. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Just having a little fun. But the point of it is, I did rush to the confessional. I mean, I'm 9 years old. The guy scared the hell out of me. The priest literally scared the hell right out of me. I went to the confessional, said, Father, I played baseball yesterday instead of going to mass. And, and thank God I had a compassionate priest. He said, well, son, I'm sure that God will forgive you. It's okay. Go outside and say 10 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers, and a glory be, and you'll be forgiven. Oh, and it wouldn't be too bad if you put a nickel in the little slot box out there and lit a candle. You can light a candle there and say a novena for the poor souls in purgatory who are. This is theology.
Right. I loved what you talked about in the book as with you bring up forgiveness here. What that we don't that forgiveness is like religion 101, that there's a higher form of forgiveness.
Well, but forgiveness is the biggest. The book makes the point that forgiveness is the biggest obstacle to spiritual growth, which is the exact opposite of what I was taught as a child. So let me repeat the statement so everyone can hear it clearly. Forgiveness, I was told, forgiveness is the biggest obstacle to spiritual growth. Because in order for you to imagine that somebody needs your forgiveness, you have to reject the idea of who you are. That is, if you're divine, if you really are an individuation of divinity, then you, I mean your soul, who you really are, the essence of who you are, can't be hurt, damaged, destroyed, upset, angered, frustrated, disappointed in any way, any more than God can be. God is not disappointed, hurt, angry, or destroyed because we didn't go to mass, or because we got a divorce, or because we had an affair, or because even we stole something. God doesn't forgive anybody for anything because you can't possibly offend or upset God. So there's nothing to forgive, nor does God punish anyone for anything, any more than you would. And here's the example that I use in the book to help people understand this, because I realize that by saying this, we're throwing out a huge, huge aspect of how people think of God. Neale, what are you saying? Of course God has to forgive us. If God doesn't forgive us, we will go to hell. Neale, what are you saying? God has to forgive the murderer, the terrorist, or even just people who commit smaller sins. No, actually not. Because, and then I used the example in the book. Supposing your 3-year-old granddaughter at dinner, and Grandpa is at the dinner table and invited to join the family at dinner. And your 3-year-old granddaughter spills the milk and knocks over the glass and spills all the milk in your lap. Now you have a lap full of milk, and the evening has been ruined. And what does the grandpa say to the granddaughter? Go to your room. Go to your room and don't come out for the next 16 years. I'll teach you. To make a mistake like that, you should know better. Now, of course, Grandpa does not say that. What Grandpa says is, it's okay, sweetheart. I forgive you. No, Grandpa doesn't even say that. What does Grandpa do? In the moment of the child's devastation at the mistake that she made, he takes her in his arms and he says, I love you, sweetheart. It's okay. It's okay. Everything is okay. I love you. There's no punishment. There's no condemnation.
It's understanding.
I forgive. I don't even need to forgive you because I understand how you could make such a mistake. So I was told in my ongoing experience with the divine, understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master. And can God understand how we could make the mistakes we make? Even killing each other in the name of God, By the way, more people have been killed in the name of God and in the name of religion than virtually any other reason that has been placed before humanity through the centuries. But can God understand how a primitive species just growing up, we are the children of the universe, could do such things? Yes. Does God condone it? Does God approve of it? Does God encourage us to continue doing it? No. But can God understand it? Yeah, of course, because God looks upon us as who we really are, the children of the universe. So what God does is bring us more and more information so that we can make fewer and fewer of those kinds of mistakes and ultimately evolve into a true expression of who we really are. I could, of course, be wrong about all of this.
Well, I'd love to hear more about your definition of pure love, what that means, and how we can use it in our own lives and in the world.
I think pure love is a kind of love that needs and wants nothing for itself. It's the way we would love our own 3-year-old granddaughter, or even the way we love our own children of any age. But imagine, we've all experienced pure love in our lives. If you've ever held a baby in your arms, or even for that matter, forgive me, but even a puppy, there's something happens. You put a little 3-week-old puppy in your arms. There's no way you don't fall in love immediately. And it's the kind of love that requires nothing of the subject of your love. You're holding a 6-month-old baby in your arms, and maybe it's your granddaughter or maybe your own daughter and your own little son, and you're holding that baby in your arms and loving it to pieces, needing nothing in return. And the little baby unfortunately has a unfortunate biological accident. Do you make that baby wrong about it? Of course not. You don't need anything from the baby. You don't even need the baby to not do certain things like what it just did. You're perfectly okay because you understand. So understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master. And pure love is the kind of love that we all have experienced in our lives. Now, when we can experience that kind of love for another fully grown human being, your spouse, your children, the man across the street, the leaders of the world, whether they're people that live far away or live right around the corner or live in the next room of your house, when you can love someone else without any expectation, any requirement, any need for anything in return of any kind, then you've experienced pure love. That is what is called pure love. And there's a way for us to connect with that energetic. In my life, and this is offered as a tool, by the way, in the book, The God Solution. This is part of the God Solution. God invites us to ask ourselves a question. Before we think or say or do anything in our life, or if you don't have the presence of mind to do it just before, at least to do it after you think or say or do something, to ask yourself the following question. Is this feeling like an expression of pure love? Does this feel like an expression of pure love? If the answer is yes, go ahead and say what you were going to say. Do what you were going to do. Be who you have chosen to be. But if the answer comes back, no, it doesn't, or if the answer even comes back, I don't know, I'm not real sure, then maybe you should take a look at it again and decide what alteration, if at all, you would make in what you're thinking, saying, or doing in order to be a living, breathing expression of pure love. Now, I promise you that if you move through the rest of your life as an expression, the best expression you can muster, of pure love that needs, expects, even hopes for anything in return. If you move through the rest of your life as an expression of that kind of love, nothing you've ever wanted in your life will be lacking in your life. People will adore you. All the wonderful gifts of life will fall in on you almost automatically, because this is the kingdom of heaven. Living in pure love is the kingdom of heaven. So don't go around asking, what are we to eat, Neale? What are we to drink? Wherewithal will we clothe ourselves? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you.
And that's
I
the
could, of course, be wrong about all of that, but I don't think so.
let's try it.
At least let's try it. And that's the whole point of the book, The God Solution, which says several places in the book, at least let's try it. Can you imagine this? We've been on this planet for thousands of years and we've never tried it. I mean, en masse. There have been individuals who have tried it, yes. And interestingly enough, many of those individuals who have tried it were actually killed. That is, we killed them because we look at them and say, who are you to be acting like this? Because they're acting in a way that we have not dared to act ourselves. So we've never really tried it. We've been given the golden rule, do unto others as you would have it done unto you. And that was going to be the gold standard for human behavior. You know what, folks? We haven't used it as the gold standard. We've decided to ignore it completely. We don't do unto others as we would have it done unto us. Very few of us do that, except once in a while, maybe we do. But more often than not, in the history of humanity, we have not done that. So now it's time for us to apply the golden rule with everyone all the time.
Neale, you talk about not just the golden rule in your book, but the platinum rule.
We know platinum is more precious than gold. It's more valuable than gold. And a wonderful, a wonderful American sociologist named Milton Bennett came up with this. He said, you know what, since no one's using it anyway, let's just forget about the golden rule. We're not practicing it, so just drop it. Let's go for something more valuable. Platinum is more valuable than gold. So he created the platinum rule. Do unto others as they would have it done unto them. Wow. What a concept. Dare you, double dare you.
So what's that distinction? What's that difference there? That's the golden rule and the platinum rule.
Well, do unto others as they would have it done unto them. What they want, what other people want done unto them might be different from what we want done unto us. But if we can allow ourselves, now, and of course, we're not talking about, obviously, people are going to argue with that and say, well, you mean sadists, masochists, you mean we should go around killing people or torturing people? But excuse me, don't go there. You know perfectly well we're not talking about that. But do unto others as they would have it done unto them. You know, treat them as they would like to be treated. And even if we don't agree with them, even if we're on the opposite end of the political spectrum, or even if we have major philosophical or enormous spiritual differences, but do unto others as they would have it done unto them. Wow, there's a huge difference between that and how I want to be treated myself. So, or there could be, for sure. For instance, supposing there's somebody in your life that you don't agree with. Maybe they've actually done something that you are upset about, and that you do think that they need to be forgiven for. Or if you've gone past forgiveness and gone to understanding, okay, I can understand how they could have done such a thing, but I'm still not very happy with them. Have you ever decided to treat another person who has not been nice to you and be nice to them? I don't mean inauthentically. I don't mean hypocritically. I mean genuinely. To be genuinely kind, genuinely compassionate, genuinely caring, and genuinely generous, emotionally generous with a person who has not been nice to you. Of course, you've done that. All of us have done it at least once or twice in our life. All of us have at least done it a few times with a person who we didn't think deserved our love, but we go ahead and do it anyway. Remember how you felt when you did that? Remember how it felt in your body when you walked away from that encounter? Maybe it was at a family reunion when you thought, well, why bring up old stuff? Just be nice. Or maybe it was in a private conversation with that person, or in some encounter when you decided, let bygones, be compassionate, be caring, be nice, be generous, emotionally generous with this person. Remember how you felt when you walked away from that? Remember that feeling inside of you? Now that's who I really am. In that moment, you've had a twinkling, just an inkling of what it's like to be divine.
Yeah.
I could, of course, be wrong about all of this.
Well,
I don't think
I
so.
love when you talk about that in the book, and then you say, because that's the moment that you decide it's because that's who you want to be, not because that's who they are, but it's
Or
because
who you think they are.
you think they are.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
that's the moment when you decide who you think you are. You know, my father, I got to tell you this, my father was not a new age person by any stretch of the imagination. You wouldn't call him a new age thinker, but he did ask me the quintessential new age question of all time from the time I was 9 years old. Who do you think you are anyway? That's all my father said to me from the time I was 9 until the time I left the house at the age of 17. Who the hell do you think you are? And I don't think he realized he was asking me the essential question of all time. Yes, in fact, who do I think I am? And are my actions, my choices, my words, and my decisions reflecting who I think I am?
Right.
And is who I think I am the grandest thought I ever had about myself? What if that was a great purpose of life? To recreate myself anew in every golden moment of now, in the next grandest version of the greatest vision ever I held about who I am. What a way to live. Finally, as the French say, finally, a raison d'etre, a reason for being that makes sense to my soul. At last. Now I understand what I'm doing here.
How do we get everyone to agree to this, solution of pure love? How
Well, our job is not to get everyone to agree. Our job is to get ourselves to agree, and then to agree with ourselves to be a model, to be an exemplar, to be a living, breathing, walking demonstration, not so that we can somehow change the world, but so that we can change ourselves. Because if and when we move through the world as a demonstration of pure love, other people will look at us. They'll be touched by us in a particular way. They may even come to us and talk to us and ask us, how is it that you act like this? How do you behave this way? What do you know that I don't seem to understand? You seem so peaceful, so serene, so calm, so nice, so gentle, so caring, so compassionate, so understanding. You seem so loving. What is it that you know that I don't seem to know? And they will ask you that. people will walk up to you and ask you that out of the blue. And then you can sit down with them one by one and say, well, I don't know if my truth is your truth, but I can tell you what motivates me. And you can tell them some of the things, perhaps, that I've shared with you. But my job is not to change the world. My job is to change me. However, if enough of us make that decision, the first domino will fall and the world will begin to change automatically. So here's something that I invite people to say to themselves whenever they encounter another person, whether it's the person across the pillow first thing in the morning, or the person across the room when you go to work, or the person across the street when you come home from work, or the person across the world that you look at on television and see in the news clips. Whoever it is that you're encountering in any way, I invite you to say the following thing. I wouldn't say it out loud. I say it in your head. If you say it out loud, you may not be understood. But if you say it in your mind, whenever you encounter anyone else, it could change the way you move through the world. So be careful with this. Whenever I see any other person, whether it's the person across the pillow first thing in the morning, or the person across the street, or the total stranger at the coffee shop, this is what I think to myself. Your life will be made better because I have passed through it this day. I promise you. Be careful with that. If you actually say that to yourself every time you encounter another person for the rest of your life will never be the same. It'll be so much grander, so much more joyful, so much more wonderful, that is so much more full of wonder that you won't believe you ever lived in any other way. So I'll give it to you again one last time. When you encounter anyone, to say in your heart of hearts, your life will be made better because I passed through it this day. I promise you.
I really feel that. I feel that energy of pure love right now. And I feel that my life is better on this day because you have passed through it.
I'm very glad. Thank you for saying that to me.
Feel it. Feel it.
Now pass it on.
Yeah.
Or as someone said a few years ago, pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Pay it forward. That is a great way to summarize this whole conversation with Neale Donald Walsch. And I don't think I need to say anymore. I think the feeling is enough. And in closing, would you like to just share with people how they can find you, or, you know, a little bit about your book, or however you want to leave, you know, whatever little bit of information you want to leave people with?
If anyone would like to stay connected with CWG, which of course is Conversations with God, if anyone wants to stay connected with that energy and these messages, and they can find me there at a website, cwgconnect.com. You want to stay connected? Go to cwgconnect.com. liberate.com. And we have a place where we can talk back and forth every day. It's a wonderful little platform that allows us to communicate back and forth. And we can ask questions, explore anything you'd like to explore, and look at anything you'd like to look at more deeply. So that's the opportunity that's there for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you and the work that you're putting into the world and the love that you're putting into the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Tami, for having me here with you. I appreciate the opportunity to share these messages. Bye for now.